Welcome back. President Trump continues to lash out at NATO allies for their reluctance to get involved in U.S. military operations in Iran. As Secretary General Mark Rutte is expected to meet with the president in Washington next week. Trump, however, reiterated his grievances during an Easter lunch yesterday in the East Room. Interesting, this event was closed to press and then only briefly was posted online by the White House before it was deleted. But MS Now obtained the video after another reporter downloaded it and shared it. Watch.
We've had some very good allies over there. We've had some very bad allies in NATO. I hope you're all watching that, Scott, because we had some asks. And, you know, we spend trillions of dollars on NATO. And when we need them, which we never do, we didn't need them here either. To be honest, I was really asking because I wanted to see what they do. We didn't need them. But I just want to tell you, NATO treated us very badly, and you have to remember it, because they'll be treating us badly again if we ever need them, and hopefully we're never going to need them. I don't think we will need them. I don't think they can do very much.
Those comments came on the same day President Trump told The Telegraph he's strongly considering pulling the U.S. out of NATO. It's a sentiment echoed by members of his administration. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told Fox News earlier this week the U.S. may, in his words, re-examine its role in NATO after the Iran war. But as Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer points out, a president cannot withdraw the U.S. from NATO without congressional approval, thanks to a 2023 bill co-sponsored by then-Senator Rubio himself. Want to bring in on set here with me Democratic Congressman Gabe Amo of Rhode Island. So that is a funny turn of the dial right there. The shoe is always on the other foot, especially when we spent over a decade in the Senate, as Marco Rubio did. And yet, we've seen the administration try to press the bounds of what Congress controls and what an executive controls time and again. So I wonder, because you sit on a bunch of relevant committees that are about to get very busy, from your perspective on foreign affairs, have you heard any chatter both about pulling out of NATO, which Trump has complained about for over a decade at this point, but also the impact that it has on our NATO allies, and I'm sure the strain on the diplomatic relationship that already exists?
Well, look, in the 20-minute address that we heard from President Trump last night, we heard a lot of passing the buck to our NATO allies, passing the buck to the American people, saying that, you know, they should just wait another 2 weeks. And so in the case of NATO, it is troubling that you have the Secretary of State who can't look in the mirror and see Senator Rubio, who was a vigorous advocate for the NATO alliance. And all this does is breeds distrust and instability on the global stage, because our NATO allies, as their constituents are struggling with the high cost of Donald Trump's war of choice, just like the American people are paying more at the gas tank, they are saying that they need to have an assurance that the United States will be a partner. And certainly in a war of choice that Donald Trump did not spend time advocating for around the world, making a case for, he's passing the buck yet again, and it's never Donald Trump's fault.
I also think there are serious questions about, A, what the objectives are that have actually been met after the last 5 weeks or however many more we have of this conflict. The other piece is how the Strait of Hormuz will just reopen. And then, of course, the role that Congress has played in getting briefings that even Republican members have started to say publicly they're not happy with the content of. They don't feel like they're being given the full picture. As someone who sits on a relevant committee, I wonder if you can speak to if you've gotten any recent briefings and what you think the substantive nature of them has been.
Well, alongside my colleagues on the Foreign Affairs Committee with our great leader, ranking member Gregory Meeks, we have called for Secretary Rubio, for Jared Kushner, for Steve Witkoff to show up in our committee room for a public, transparent hearing. The American people have not been told anything really about this war. And last night, you know, I think the phrase is a day late and a dollar short. This was a month late and billions of dollars short. The American people are experiencing higher prices at the gas tank. I'm from a cold part of the country. The home heating oil up, grocery prices going up, and the Strait of Hormuz is just supposed to automatically open. That's 20% of the world's oil. Donald Trump says we have all that we need. That is actually false. This is a global market, and we're seeing it. You know, I've been watching more economic reports than I have of late, and it's chaos. because of Donald's war, legal war of choice. And that's unfair to the American people.
And we were talking with our colleague at CNBC about the ways that all of these various affordability issues are connected in some ways, directly or indirectly, to the ongoing war in Iran. And so I think that's notable as we continue tracking the fallout. You know, I think when you talk about billions of dollars short, there is a question of how the administration will ask for what's estimated to be about $200 billion in supplemental funding. Because you were on the budget committee, this hits another thing that's likely coming down the pipeline, which is that reconciliation package that likely will include the $200 billion. Can you give us a sense of what the timeline even is on that? Because Republicans are trying to rush to the finish on it now.
Well, here's the thing. Rushed work means pain for the American people. We saw that with the big, ugly law, where $1 trillion is cut out of health care. And we saw a real eradication of things that people value in this country. Nutrition assistance, all of the support for the Inflation Reduction Act for clean energy. And now we're seeing, because it's their only path forward, a party line, partisan vote to charge a tax on the American people for Donald Trump's war of choice. He is passing the buck again to Americans to pay for his folly. And that's unfair because ultimately they're looking at more cuts to health care. That's not right.
Yeah, there is going to have to be a question of what the pay-for mechanisms are in that reconciliation bill. And you're right to point out that some of the pay-fors in the last version of it ended up touching people's ability to access Medicaid and other programs. We're going to keep our eyes closely on that because when that process starts, it is going to go really fast.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing that I'm laser focused on as well. Democratic Congressman Gabe Amo of Rhode Island, thank you for coming on.